live? I have to hit go live. Okay, here we go. Going live. Says I'm live now. So hopefully I'm actually live. I see Dave has already joined us. Do apologize for the 4-minute delay. Hopefully today will be a great conversation. I'm going to have a surprise for y'all in just a moment here after I get my headset in here. Oh, wait a minute. Why does Blaze have a headset? Is it possible he doesn't want feedback from another microphone? Hint, hint. Okay, so let me talk about today's topic and why we're talking about it today. So Dave already jumped in, Dave Earl. And in my actuality, you don't need a thing, just your will and heart. But our human need to understand dictates that we need to have a representation of that which we can't understand, I think. I just know I need my altar. I see you fine. Cool, Dave. Cool. Hopefully I don't get any frames drop. I was getting a lot of frame drop earlier today. I'm not used to wearing headphones, so as I play with my headphones here. Okay, so basically, let me give you a little background, then I have someone introduced to y'all. I do TikToks, and I don't think I share my TikToks. If you folks are interested in my TikToks, I can always share it some other time. But one person was doing a video, and this person's been making videos for a while. This person considers themselves, for a while there, they were considered a Norse pagan, and then they became an eclectic pagan, and they were doing this. Hey, Fadista, great to see you. Greetings from Southwest Florida. Awesome. Thanks. So this person was basically talking about altars, and they sense burner, a wooden bowl. Interesting. Well, one of the people I follow on TikTok was creating a counter to this and basically says this person's scamming you. Like, don't buy this. Like, you don't need to have an altar, and if you have one, just go make one out. Like, he's like, oh yeah, I like this stick, and his name's Liam, great guy, by the way. If you know who he is on TikTok, great guy. So he comes out, sticks a stick in the ground. There you go, there's my altar. And it got me thinking. I was like, that's a great topic. Let's talk about, do you need an altar? Well, one of the people who's been following me on YouTube for a while, we talk sometimes on Discord. They actually run their own YouTube channel as well, and they asked me nicely, like, hey, do you mind if I join your live? I hadn't had someone on my live in a while, but I was like, you know what? This person's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and have them on. I know in the past people have complained when I talk to other people on my lives, but I don't care. It's my live. So if you don't like it, don't watch. Anyway, without further ado, many of you may know him from Cauldron Brew. Jay Woodwolf. Let's switch on over. You are still muted. You need to unmute your microphone.
There we go.
I can hear you now. So I assume everyone can hear Jay as well? Yes?
Hopefully I can be heard.
I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear with my wonderful headset thing going on here. Looking for confirmation in the chat, and hopefully we don't get... Hey, we've got green. We have a green bar. My internet's been screwy, so if it cuts out or if it gets skippy, I'm sorry. But today, with only she can hear you. And it just turned red. No! Okay, so if frames are dropping, I apologize. Just bear with us. So one of the places I want to start out, Jay, is, and if you look to your left shoulder, it looks like you're looking at me on the screen. So if I look to my right shoulder, it looks like I'm looking at you. So we can pretend we're having a conversation. So
All right.
I'm easily amused. I'm sorry. It's just one of those things. Anyway, so moving on. I think one of the best places to start, some intermittent buffering. Yeah, I figure that's going to be the case. Yeah, I'm starting to get some red, and I don't know why. Bear with us. So I'm going to talk to my internet company, or up my internet or something, because having lives that are constantly lagging out is very frustrating, especially when people are trying to watch. But I think a great place to start is definition of an altar, so that we can get on the same page. Like, so how would you describe an altar? Let's start with you.
I would describe an altar as a working shrine. Something that's dedicated to your deity, to your tradition, to the ancestors even. Something to where you have off in the corner, or just off to the side, something that's, I don't know, something that's just off to the side, and the altar is there when you need it. I don't think the word need is prominent when it comes to the altar. I don't think it's something that you actually need. I don't think you need tools to begin with. Um, the desire, go ahead and cast with your fingers. But it's nice to have.
I can agree with that. Typically, when I think of an altar, I think of basically any platform for to be used in ritualistic purposes. So this could be ceremony, prayer, offerings, whatever the case may be. But I think it's just
Yep.
it's a workspace for you to work with tools and or different types of elements. When I say offerings, I mean offerings can vary. I know in the past, like people always think of animal sacrifice, and I think that was a part of human society at one point. But today, when you talk about sacrifice, you typically are talking about like herbs. You chop up herbs and you offer herbs, or in some cases, you might create something like an effigy to burn, and you might burn that in an offering bowl, as an example, or write something down on a piece of paper, burn it, and let the ashes burn out. So there's like different ways of doing offerings today and sacrifices compared to what it was at one time. But I think we're on the same page for an altar, just kind of like a place to do your work. And
Yeah, definitely.
it seems like you already went into the next part, and you don't think they're needed, right?
No, I really don't think it's needed. It's nice to have there as a focal point.
I completely agree with you. I 100% don't think altars are needed, and I think it comes down to a comfort level and what you're trying to accomplish. And I think most workings, unless you're doing some sort of a ritual for like maybe a holiday or a ceremony, I don't really see the big point, right? And we got some comments. Hold
Right.
on, let's get caught up in the comments. So Fidista said, agree, no tools needed, but beneficial to have. Yep. Grassland G, good to see you. Workspace bingo, that's how I see it. Right, right. Yeah, going back to what you're saying earlier, though, you mentioned you to feel like you don't even need tools and like just use your hands, use your fingers.
Yep. I've done it. There was a time where I didn't have no money. I was actually broke and I was living in my sister's basement and yeah, go figure. But there was a moment in life where I didn't have anything and I was just I had to do my workings the best way I knew how with nothing and so when people are like, "Oh, pagans or Wiccans or whatever don't pray." Yeah, we pray. Sometimes praying is just necessary.
I can
A
see
spell
that.
can work just fine as a prayer, or honoring your deities, or honoring your ancestors. A prayer can work just fine.
Going back to one of my old lives, it's actually something I brought up before. In my opinion, I think prayers are a type of spell. You're you're applying to a
Yeah,
appealing to a higher power. Even if it has a consciousness, you're still doing that communication. Oswin says altars and shrines to me are two different things. The altar is a tool and represents spirit and associated with the feminine. Nice. What do you consider to be a shrine then, Oswin? I've heard so the shrine gets a little bit tricky for me personally because I've heard of shrines as being entire buildings, but I've also heard of shrines as being like altar size. So, for example, in Scandinavia, sometimes they have a sacred is set up less for ritualistic workings and more just a representation of a divine sacred space with different types of figures, which yes, you can put those on altars as well. But it would be a house shrine, is what people sometimes refer to that as. Or in Shinto, or Shinto, I've had arguments on how to pronounce that. With Shinto, Japanese spirituality, there are Tori type of and kami shrines that you can have in your house, and they'll have like a little Tori gate, a miniaturized one in this tiny little building, which is meant for the kami to live in the house, and that's considered a shrine as well. So I think it just depends on the individual. And now I'm going to do a quick search on one of the sites. There's actually a Wikipedia that's dedicated to spiritual stuff, and even though I don't always agree with it, and I will always, and I highly recommend this, if you look something up online, look for confirmation amongst multiple sources and really ask yourself, is the source credible? So with this particular website, even though I'm not a huge fan of it, I tend to veer towards wikiwand.com over like dictionary.com, because dictionary.com thinks witches and sorcerers and wizards and druids are all the exact same thing. Like, oh yeah, sea sorcerer. Sea wizard. It's like, so what are they? It's just, if you see each other, it doesn't give you any definition. So at least on here, you get a little bit more. And most wikis, like Wikipedia and WikiWand, have a section at the bottom with their references. You can check out those references and determine if they're good. But anyway, they're saying, according to this, a shrine is a sacred or holy space dedicated to a specific deity, ancestor, hero, martyr, saint, demon, or similar figure. So yeah, kind of, I was close. I was close. That's kind of cool. And they say altar is a table or platform for the presentation of religious offerings, for sacrifice, or for other ritualistic purposes. Hey, either they learned from me or we're on the same page. We learned from the same sources. Dave Earl says, I don't feel altars are either male or female. They are associated with the person who erects it, be they male or female. Interesting. Oswin says a shrine is where you show honor to a deity or ancestor, a place to light incense and leave offerings. That actually goes along with that definition as well, and my general thoughts. So we're on the same page there. Fadista says, very relatable. Jay, I have very little in my house due to flood loss and renovation, but I have a medicine bag and a couple of things from the woods, like a piece of oak tree for a wand, etc. And then Dave Earl says, I made my own wand from a tree branch. Nice. Give you a few moments, Jay, to comment on some of the comments if you want. I don't want to
Right.
talk the whole time.
Yeah, if that's, if it works for you, go for it. Having the medicine bag, having, things from the woods,
WikiWand links that I was just talking about, because again, I think sharing resources is important, even if you want to question them yourself, you want to dig into them further. So, and I see, I almost feel like we could get a conversation going on about tools, and maybe that can be a future live. With the altar itself, I think in a way it's a type of tool, and I think that's why it's so easy to talk about it. And it's like when you interact with your altar, most people are going to use some form of tool. Most, not all. Some people might just sit themselves. They might even sit skyclad. But if we have agreed that an altar is a place to do ritual, ceremony, something along those lines, versus a shrine, which is the dedicated space for some form of deity or spiritual being, ancestor, etc.
Mm-hmm.
If we think of things being on a vibrational level, what you get out of it is what you put into it. I know a lot of us have talked about this before in anything in life, how hard you work at your job. If you put effort in something, you get effort out of it. And I think, in my opinion, when it comes to spirituality, it is very much based upon intent and will. So when someone gets a branch and uses that as a wand versus buying a metal forged silver stone encrusted wand, both of them can work. And in some cases, the simple branch is going to work. Some cases it'll work even better, because again, it's what you put into it. If you forge it and craft it yourself, I feel like that gives it power. And if you have intent, will, and love for it, it gives it power. What do you think?
I totally agree. Like, if you're sitting there, you're whittling it and, shaping it and carving it and putting things into it, and you're actually putting a piece of yourself. And, while you're whittling the wand itself, you could cut yourself, and part of your blood is going to get on that wand. So your energy is within your blood. So I think, personally, if you craft it, it's going to have more of an effort, more of an energy output than something that you just pick up at the store. I think it's really cool when people start making their own tools and using it.
I agree. Put something of themselves into it, make it their own.
Mm-hmm.
With it says, Fadista said the stream dropped. I hope it's not gone. I hope it's stabling again. Let me hit a refresh on my page here and make sure that we're still alive. I need to get more stable internet. I will look into that. No, not up. Yeah, Fadista says it's still down. Looks like it's back up for me.
It says you're live.
Yeah, and I'm seeing the preview. It only has one person viewing it right now, so maybe folks need to refresh. And then I've got green bars. It went red. It flickered red. Yeah, I apologize for the internet instability. This is a good conversation too. We've had pretty decent feedback in the comments too, which is awesome. It's good here for Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you for confirming, Dave. Grassland G, we're back. Yeah, I hope that doesn't cut into two different streams. Hopefully it clicks them together. And yep, now viewers are starting to click back on. So sorry. Like I said, unfortunately, my internet service provider it's throttling my internet on Saturdays. Like I'm supposed to have 10 up, and right now I'm dropping to like 5 and 6. When it does that, it stutters the stream, and unless the internet provider starts giving me what I'm paying for, there's not much I can do about it right now. So thank you all for your patience. We'll pause, just like Fidista did. Just let me know in chat. We'll pause for a second, and then we'll refresh until we're all clear, and we'll get back to it. Now I'm going red again. Besides for the things that I'm actually using, so I only got Chrome up for the browser, and I have that. So Laura Perry, if it didn't come through, like we read your comment, tools are great for focus, and both me and Jay both agree with that. Absolutely. With all, Laura, let's see, Dave Earl said, Laura Perry, I completely agree. Tools to me are essential for focus, and some of us have trouble with it and need a physical representation of the thing we want to focus on. I agree with that too. I think
it actually helps our mental process.
I can agree with that. I feel like to a certain degree too that the material that the tool is made out of can also add something to it. Like for example, if you do any sort of work with herbs, plants, stones, certain types of wood and trees have particular vibrations. We see this a lot in druidry with the Om, Ogum, Oum, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Each tree has a certain set of properties associated with it. So having a wand made out of a particular metal or made out of a particular wood and attaching some form of stone to it or something like that could potentially enhance. Like for example, I know I did a live or a short at one time where I was talking about the silver maple in my backyard and apparently how maples are good healing wands. And then there are actual properties of the tree with the sap that are used in different types of actual medicine. So the actual usage outside of esoteric spirituality actually have medical reasons. And then the tree being associated with vibrational healing as well, it kind of almost makes sense and kind of works together, I think. Now, talking about altars, I think as far as the need to use them, I think it comes down to the purpose. What are you currently doing, and do you need a space to do it? That to me is the need of whether or not you need an altar. Is what are you currently doing, and do you require a space to do that? And it can be a temporary altar. You know, it can be something like that you're just using for a moment. Let's see. Fidista said, absolutely. I utilize a lot of plants and stones. I also use silver and copper wire to wrap stones on wands for specific purposes. That's awesome. Yeah,
Your stream just dropped.
Did it drop again? Yeah.
Yes.
My video game stream earlier today, garbage the first half, and then it stabilized for about 40 minutes at the end. I'm hoping my stream will stabilize today. If not, hopefully people will at least be able to enjoy on my channel.
If you want, I can drop out and let you do your thing with it. But it was nice to have you let me join you today.
Oh, I don't mind you staying on. So you're not actually affecting it. It's like I said, my download speed's like 260. You are smooth and clear. Like your video's clear, your sound is clear. My download speeds are fine. The amount that gets uploaded to Discord, I don't think is that high. I mean, I could try closing the Discord app to see if it stabilizes the stream. If you want, I can give that a shot, but It's up to you. You're the one who asked to join today, and so far the conversation's been good.
Well, I would hate to, interrupt your stream, so.
Right, but like I said, I don't think that it's. I don't think the Discord is taking up that much of the bandwidth. I don't think.
Okay.
Looks okay right now is what Fadista is saying. So Fadista says that she's getting it back. I do have a red bar. Oh, now it's green. Cool. Stay green. Stay green. Green like plants and foliage. We like green. Green is good.
Right.
But what I was saying with the altars specifically, temporary altars even work great. I know there was one time I had so I don't work with altars very much. I don't usually feel the need for it. If I'm doing something of a spiritual nature anymore, it's just like experiencing and interacting with life. I consider that very magical. Creating and being, making things, and I'm talking anything from stories to drawings to pictures. Manifesting art to me is very magical. So for me, it's just like I don't need an altar for most of that stuff. When I do use an altar, it's usually ceremonial. So we're talking like Ihahauna and Samhain. We're talking like Yule or the winter solstice. We're talking, different types of holiday celebrations. There might be something that's done briefly, and it's usually like maybe to put something on for an offering. Maybe it's putting some form of alcohol in it or some herbs or something along those lines. Or again, as I was mentioning, writing something on a piece of paper to burn and letting it burn away and then dumping the ashes outside afterwards. So it's usually something very small and simplistic. But in the past, when I was looking more into altars, when I first started getting into this stuff, I remember being out in the creek, a creek, it depends on which region you're from, a small flowing body of water, not quite a river, just a little trickle of water, creek bed. I remember taking flat stones that I found there and stacking them up to about 3 feet high and using that as a temporary altar to do something out in the woods before. It serves its purpose. You don't need to have anything fancy. I didn't need any adornments or anything like that. I literally just needed a surface to put whatever offerings I was working with at the time, or just to put my workings that I was using, which again typically are either herbs, stones, or something along those lines. Whenever I do have an altar space, that's usually for me what it typically is, because even when you're working with tools, I mean, you can carry them on you, right? If you're working with some sort of anathema or ritual knife of some sort on your belt, pull it out when you use it, put it back when you're done, right? That's the way I think about it. What about you as far as altars go? If you use them at all, and what sort of advice you would have if someone needed an altar?
I currently don't have one set up because I'm making arrangements within my apartment to bring my mother in, and there's the story behind that one. But I've gone out to a local pond, and there's a bench at the township put up, and sometimes I would go out there and use the bench. That's my altar. Just put my stuff on, just something to set it down. But currently, I really don't have one. Usually, I have something set up that's decorative, and if I need it, it's there. But I really don't think it's first or asking the gods, hey, can you help me with this?
I wonder if that's from Druid influence. And the reason I say that is like both of us have worked with Obad before, and they seem to be very much in the now. Like, for example, like I'm sure you've seen different types of household cleansings that work with Brigid, Bree, Bride, whatever you want to call her. I call her Brigid. But water and flame is very sacred to her. So literally taking a candle and walking around your house, you don't need an altar for that. You let the light of the candle cleanse the house. Or if you enchant water, maybe you need an altar to lay it on there when you're praying to Brigid. Then you take the bowl and flick it around the house, like dip your fingers in and flick the sprinkles around the room. So maybe in that case you might use an altar, but yeah, just go with your instincts, right?
Yeah. Amongst the druids, they didn't have a smoke cleansing. It was either a fire cleansing or water cleansing.
Yep.
They didn't have the smudge as what we do today. With the sage or lavender or whatever. They didn't have that. They would set up like two big old bonfires at Beltane, rush their cattle in between, and the flames would, barely touch the cattle, but it would cleanse the cattle. It would do that with people. You go in between the flames of these two huge bonfires, and the fire would, cleanse it. And they weren't using an altar. They had to run through. And but yeah, they didn't use the for cleansing. They didn't use smudging.
Right. I've brought that argument up with people before because that's usually my go-to method for cleansing is either candlelight or water because of the
Hmm.
druid interactions that I've had and the influences I've had from that training. Um, I've had heard from people, specifically from Scotland, which is very, very close to those regions, and I don't remember if Scotland had druids or not. But either way, I know in Scotland they do have something called seining, and they would typically burn things, and they would do a smoke cleanse, is what they're saying. I don't know how accurate that is, but I
Hmm.
have heard people bring it up to me before.
Yeah, because I know in Ireland they never had a smudging technique. It was always fire or um, water
Right.
or
Yeah.
oil.
Yeah. Especially, yeah. Ireland, 100% agree with you. Yep. And then even with the seining techniques, like I said, Scotland, not Ireland, but out in Scotland, I don't know the details. I just know they burn different things from white sage. Um,
Hmm.
White sage and smudging, as far as I know, is 100% an indigenous tradition for tribal indigenous Americans. Um,
Yep.
and they
Because I know
usually do
if
it
you
to
go
different.
like through the sorry,
No, go ahead, by all means.
um, but I also know that if you like right into the Welsh lore, Mobangoan, or however you pronounce it, um, even in there they don't talk about smudging. There's really no talk about altars either. It's just you use what's there.
Right?
The cauldron was a big thing in the Welsh mythology, with Caradwyn and the stories there. But um, the really altars were not a thing.
Yeah, I agree. I don't remember reading much of anything about that. What I was gonna say about the sage and the smudging and stuff is even the way that people tend to use it today. Which again, if you're gonna use it, find what works for you. That's fine. But people have a tendency to buy these incense sticks, which is white sage bundles. They burn that and they waft it around the house. But if you see how indigenous people use it, they'll typically put that in a bowl and use a feather to waft the smoke towards what they're cleansing. People don't use it the same way, which again, I mean, you adapt what you want, and I think it's the same thing you're saying. Like even with the altars, we don't see altars in a lot of the older sources. So why are we
Hmm.
so focused on the current way that New Age traditions present it in some of these books instead of refinding a way that works for us? And I think you hit the nail on the head with what you're saying earlier. Like a lot of things you said, you just follow your instincts, and that's I think the best advice you can give anyone. Yes, it's fine to do all these things that modern practitioners are doing, but ask yourself, why are they doing it and why do you need it? Because if you don't, then just
Right.
move on. Move on to what does make sense to you, especially solitary practitioners. I can't say this enough. For a solitary practitioner, you have no one to answer to. You're not learning a specific tradition. So do what just feels natural and feels right. If you're joining a group, okay, let that group guide you because that group has a way of doing it. But if you're not with a group, it doesn't matter. You don't have anyone to answer to.
No.
Yeah, I keep getting so much drop going on.
Yep.
I'm up to 63% of my frames are dropping now. So it's probably, even when it is
It's
playing,
bad.
we're probably want to do a quick thank you for those of you that are in here now or see it again later. The participation in the chat has been awesome today, and I greatly appreciate that. Hopefully, I can get this straightened out by next Saturday, but I doubt it. I'm sure next Saturday will be just as. I'll reach out to my internet provider today, and then bug them next week to hopefully.
I enjoyed it, and thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
absolutely. It was great having you on here. Appreciate it. And again, just as a reminder, if folks want to check out Jay's channel, Cauldron Brew. And if actually, let's get a link. Let's put a link down
I've
below
actually
as well.
taken a break from it for right now, so I can handle the personal things that are going on in my life. And Julie is still uploading to it, and still making content. And they can all check that out.
True, but it does exist, and you have
Yes.
participated. So I think acknowledging at least, unless you don't want to acknowledge it, or you have other sources you wish to share. But I just, yeah,
No,
sorry. It's just,
no,
it's
I just wanted
reflex,
to
right?
put that in there.
Fair.
Right. I just wanted to put in there that I am taking a break from it for right now, and Julie is still uploading content to Cauldron Brew, and they can still check that out. But eventually, I'll be back when things in my life kind of normalize again.
Understandable. You got to take time for you.
Yep.
Healing is a process. It's not something that can be done instantaneously. Cool. Well, thank you for joining. Oh, that would be that he has already dropped. That's why you see my icon there on Discord. So let me switch over to the single live now. And I'm going to go ahead and attempt to close out of Discord just in case it's taking bandwidth. I don't think it's going to help. Maybe it does. If it does, cool. We'll know for the future. And I'll make sure that I close out of Discord in the future too if